Greetings of the day to everyone. I am Vinod Joseph here. I'm Assistant Professor in the Department of Professional Management, Kristu Jayanti College. I'll be talking to you on the topic of type of tests. So before I start, I would like to just tell you what is tests. It's the procedure for determining job suitability, right? And it gives a very objective assessment compared to the other type of screening devices. And they test various parameters of the candidate like intelligence, personality, dexterity, interest. Therefore, they're very popular in determining the candidate suitability. Right? So with that, let us go to the type of tests. So I'll be talking to you about the following 9 type of tests. We have aptitude test, personality test, skills test, psychometric tests, situational judgment tests, popularly called SJTs, work sample tests, integrity tests, medical and health assessments, and group and role play exercises. These are the popular kinds of tests used for screening of candidates. First one, aptitude test. Aptitude is our natural talent for doing some activity. So the aptitude test doesn't check what your knowledge is, but tries to find out how good you would be at an activity based on your natural talent. Right? So in the worldwide, we describe this as linguistic aptitude, which is our ability to study different types of languages, memorize words. Then another type of aptitude is the STEM aptitude, which is the science, technology, engineering, math. And this is the kind of aptitude which is very useful for solving problems. It indicates your aptitude towards engineering and technological subjects. We are having the artistic aptitude, which is our ability to create works of art like seeing and hearing and to be creative. That kind of an aptitude does the candidate have? These kinds of tests check that. Then the mechanical aptitude is the propensity and the competence to and the natural talent to look at the working of the machines, repairing different machines, manufacturing new different types of equipment. This is the mechanical aptitude tests which we give to the candidates to check that aptitude. Then you are also having the organizational aptitude. It is the ability to operate and organize ourselves properly to undertake certain activities. Like we are having for jobs like event management or company secretary or personal secretary of all these, to organize the CEO's work in a proper manner. We are having the organizational aptitude is very important. So these are the aptitude tests. In India, we also look at this aptitude tests from more specific perspective like numerical aptitude, verbal aptitude, logical reasoning, like abstract reasoning tests, which gives different pictures and tries to find out the next, whether you're able to logically understand the next sequencing of the pictures. Data interpretation tests where graphs are given and you are required to interpret meanings from these graphs. Aptitude tests also take the part on professions. Like we are having clerical aptitude, which looks at your attention to detail and to identify mistakes in different letters, and the sales aptitude, which looks at problem solving and objection handling, etc. Right. So we are having these are the aptitude tests which look at your propensity and natural talent and which areas you would be good at. With a little bit of training, you can easily pick up that subjects. So this is the aptitude tests. The second type of tests is the personality tests. The personality test is to better understand the candidate beyond their resumes and qualification. And to help the recruiters make more informed decisions. Right, these tests provide valuable insights on how a person might fit into the organization and interact with the colleagues, handle stress, and perform in a particular role. Right, the commonly used tests are Big 5 personality tests, also called as the Ocean model, and very often also the Myers-Briggs type indicator. So we are having the Ocean model first, which looks at 5 main dimensions of the person. And the main 5 is, we can also acronym it to Ocean model, which is nothing but openness, conscientiousness, E is extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So these are the 5 dimensions on which we try to understand the candidate. Openness refers to how open he is for new experiences, down to earth, and aspects like that. Low scores will ensure it's not good for the openness to experience. You should have high scores like imaginative, creative. These are the high scores of openness to experience, and low scores is like he's not very open to understand various activities. He's got a very closed mind. So that is the first dimension. Next is the dimensions of conscientiousness. This one also we should try. The candidate should get a good score, preferably. And this is looking at hardworking, well organized. These are the high scores, and opposite to that is lazy and disorganized are the low scores of the dimension. In this dimension, we look at the candidate. The third parameter in this test is extroversion, where the high scores indicate a good social and talkative and active person, and low scores indicate solitary and quiet person. So here also a high score would be better for the candidate. And of course, it depends upon the type of job and the type of role, or how much is acceptable parameters. The intensity of the parameters or the high scores, how much it should be. And one of the most important parameters in the job is agreeableness. Right. This also, we should definitely have high scores in this. And this parameter is looking at high scores indicate trusting, lenient, and soft-hearted, not a good-natured person. Not always saying yes, but a very agreeable person is the one who is good-natured and trusting person. And the low scores is always a rigid, suspicious person. So that is low scores. So the candidate should have high scores. The fifth dimension is neuroticism. This dimension, it is preferable the candidate should have low scores. The low scores indicate calm, even-tempered, comfortable, and less emotionally charged person. And high scores is opposite. It involves a high emotional, worried, temperamental person. So this one, the low scores would be better. So this is the Ocean model, which tries to understand the candidate and sees the different level of the parameters, the 5 parameters. The next very popular model is for assessing personality is the MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This personality model brings about 16 different personality types based on the combination of 4 parameters, 4 basic parameters. One is whether you are an extrovert or introvert. So extrovert or introvert. So that is one parameter. That is, an extrovert person gets his energy and is very comfortable with the outside world. And the introvert is basically a quiet person who is more comfortable with his inner world. Right? His energy is from that. So that is the first parameter, whether he is an extrovert or introvert. The second parameter is where do you collect your information from? Right? In this we are having 2 parameters, sensing and intuition. Your information you're collecting is in form of practical, concrete nature, specific nature. You're supposed to be sensing person. And if you are collecting information which is basically or based on generalities and possibilities and very abstract in nature, then you are basically intuition is your main way of collecting the information. And the third parameter is how do you evaluate and make decisions based on that information. In that we are having 2 particular frameworks. One is thinking and one is feeling. So thinking person uses his mind and makes decisions, whereas a feeling person uses his emotions and makes the decisions. So where do you exactly lie, and what scale do you lie in these 2 frameworks, these 2 extremes? And the fourth parameter is how do you orient yourself to the outside world. Do you orient yourself to the world in a judging manner, where you have very specific time measurements, very specific decisive nature, right? And or you are having a very exploring nature and a flexible nature, which is judging versus perceiving. If you are judging, you have a very structured and very time-oriented and organized way of disposition towards the outside world. And if you are having a perceiving personality, you have a very flexible, open-minded, and an exploring nature of the world. So this is based on these four parameters: extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. We develop 16 different personalities, right? For example, if you are extroversion, it will be E, and if you are intuition in the second, it will be I, and if you are thinking, it will be T and P. So it will be E, I, T, P would be your personality type. Like that, there are 16 different combinations possible, and the 16 different personalities are possible in this particular framework, and we can categorize the candidates into these 16 personalities. So different personalities are better for doing different types of jobs. So these two tests can give us a better understanding of the candidate as to how successful he will be in the particular jobs. So these are the personality tests. Next test we are going to is skill tests. Right? Skill tests are assessments designed to evaluate a person's ability to perform specific tasks or to use specific skill sets required for the job. So the skills are basically very specific in nature, and a group of skills would be required to consider a job. So we are going to test those skills whether he has it or not. Those types of tests are called the skill tests. There are technical skills. For example, if a person you want to know whether he's good in computer program on a specific language like Pascal or like Python or like C, then that kind of a test you can give. If he's in accounting, then you can give him a balance sheet and you can check that. That is a skills test, right? You can also test the soft skills, like whether he'll be included in good communication skills, what are his leadership kind of skills. So the test will check his leadership, will check his teamworks. Those kinds of tests are the skill tests. So we are having technical skills, soft skill testing, language skills can be tested, how good he is in a particular language, in understanding, in reading or writing, what is his where his capability is, whether he's got multi-language skills. So that is a skill test. What exactly is the skill level on the particular job which you want? And you can have a practical kind of test also for that. For example, if a person comes for welding or he comes as a cook, you can see whether he's got that particular test or not. That is called practical or hands-on skills. So we are testing the skills to do a particular job. This is a skill test. The fourth type of test is a very popular term called psychometric tests. Right? As a psycho means the mind and metric means measurement. So these tests try to measure all the mental dimensions of the person for the suitability for the particular job. Right? For example, it can be a group of tests like his mental ability, attitudes, behavior, cognition level, knowledge of the subject. All these tests, different types of tests are put to find whether he is mentally good enough to take up the job which is at hand. Right? So it brings out a lot of characteristics of the candidate. The psychometric test try to measure all the sets of competencies required for the job. The higher the role, the tougher the psychometric tests. Right? So this is a very popular form of selection in our system, and it is very popularly used to assess the candidate's mental capability and mental makeup for his suitability for the particular job. Then another interesting type of test is the situational judgment tests, popularly called SJTs. Here the candidate is put into some fictitious situations which represent actual situations in the company which can arise. And he is asked to get choices between different options about choice of how he will react to it. So this is a good kind of test to judge whether he is culturally fit for the company and other aspects regarding his behavior. Right? So this is a situational judgment test. I've got an example for you for this particular test. For example, if you are in an office and you overhear a work colleague being verbally abusive to a co-worker, what would you do? The choices are: A, this is none of my business. I would ignore it and let the people and let the work colleagues sort it out among themselves. Choice B is I would join in the abuse. Right? So maybe some candidates will select that. That is, of course, the worst answer. C is I would step in and stop the abuse immediately and then report it to the manager. And third, I would not interfere, but I would report it to the manager. So you can see the different levels, and what is the best is, of course, to see where you have to stop the abuse and then report to the manager. An acceptable answer is that you report it to the manager without interfering. Right? So if depending upon what he is selecting, we can know how much he is culturally oriented towards our company. These are the situational judgment tests. Next, we are moving into work sample tests. Right? So a work sample test is actually undertaking the piece of the work of what he is applied for. Right? So we will have to call him to and give him a sample of the work and ask him to do it. For example, if he's applying for a sales position, you can ask him to sell a pen or a certain thing to you in the interview. Right? Or if he's come for a coding problem, you can ask him to actually give him a code and see whether it works on the computer. The third is if he's coming for if he's trying to make an accountant job, give him a spreadsheet and ask him to make the account statement. So this is the actual work sample, and we are asking whether he'll be good for this, to find out whether he is suitable for the work or not. These are the work sample tests. Then another is the seventh one is the integrity tests. Today the corporate demands a lot of integrity in how we function. Right, in the corporates, they want people of very high honesty, reliability, and ethical behavior. Right, so this test tried to find out these kinds of attitudes of the candidate. Right, and it also finds out whether he is going to indulge in some counterproductive behavior. And so, in the integrity test is very important. And there are two main types we usually give to the candidates: is overt integrity tests. These tests directly ask the candidate, have you done anything wrong in your company before? In the example, like, have you stolen something or taken something, some small, or have you witnessed certain things of dishonesty or theft or unethical behavior? And it's I had taken something or some, if I have done something, the candidate will tell in those manner, means it is not good for the candidate. And there is personality-based integrity test. In the personality-based integrity test, we look at overt, this is covert way of finding out whether he is good in integrity or not. These tests are personality-based, and they try to check out whether he has got any lack of honesty or reliability or any propensity towards unethical behaviors. So these are the integrity tests. And the next one we look at is the medical and health assessment test. So the different companies require different levels of physical, visual competence in our physically we have to be fit. All companies require us to be physically fit for the jobs. Right? So these involve physical examination, visual and hearing tests, drug and alcohol tests, fitness for duty evaluation. Right? So these are some of the medical assessment which also the candidate has to clear for getting the job. And the last one, ninth one, we are having the group or role play exercises. By this also we can find out various dimensions of the candidate where a group activity is being given and the candidates have to undertake these group activities. Some of them are like scenario based discussions, right, where you are given a scenario and you have to discuss on the topic, or you are given debates where the candidates have to select certain positions and argue on that. Then you are having problem solving exercises, like hypothetical business challenges are given to you, and as a group you have to solve that. Right? So these really check out the communication, teamwork, collaboration, critical thinking, leadership of the candidate. And another thing about this is the role playing exercises. The group exercise can take a more specific role where the candidates have to take specific roles. For example, in a customer service role play, one person has to be the customer and the other has to be customer service executive. So their interaction. So this is like a group activity, but only thing it takes a little more higher level because you are supposed to take specific roles also. Or conflict resolution between two employees, or a sales pitch for a salesperson and a customer, manager and employee interaction. Right? These are some of the popular role play exercises, and they test various skills of problem solving, empathy, communication and persuasion, conflict management, etc. So with this, we have come to the end of the 9 different type of tests. To sum up, we have studied the 9 different types of tests, and we have seen that we have the aptitude test, the personality tests, the skill tests, the psychometric tests, the situation judgment tests, the work sample tests, the integrity tests, medical and health assessment tests, and group and role play exercises. These are some of the very popular testing methods to arrive at the right candidates. Thank you.